So today I wanted to make a quick tutorial about how I'm finishing off my Damieka Lopa by Penny Gurry. So this is a colorwork cardigan that I made in Rauma Phenol Garn. 5 colors, and it's knit in the round. So that means that all of this, even though there's a break in the center, of course, for the cardigan, so you can open and close it, when you're working, you work in the round. So all of this is knit up to the beginning of the button band. You have a steek, which is an extra set of stitches here. And then continue with the color work in stockinette stitch. So just knitting all the way through. That means you don't have to purl in your color work to make a cardigan. And so when you're done with your knitting, you pick up stitches on the edge of your steek and attach these button bands. And then after you've attached your button bands, you cut your knitting. So the question is today, what do we do with the loose threads on the inside after we've cut our knitting? And you can just leave it. This wool is very toothy. It's like natural wool, and you can just leave it unfinished on the inside, and that's totally fine. Your knitting's not going to go anywhere. But if you want to add a little extra stability or make it look a little tidier on the inside, you can sew on a ribbon. So that's what I've done here. And I'm going to show you today the stitches I used, or the kind of stitch I used to sew in this ribbon. So I ordered this ribbon. This is a jacquard ribbon. It's not quite an inch thick. It's about it's almost an inch thick, actually, because I did order a 3/4 inch ribbon to begin with, and that was too narrow. So this might be 7/8 or something like that. I ordered this ribbon from Mood Fabrics. And you know, in a color that was sort of complementary to my sweater, and then sewed it on the inside. So this side is done. Yay. And you can see here I used this stitch, and on the side I used what's called a fell stitch. Now I'm not a super awesome seamstress, so there are definitely folks out there who could stitch neater stitches than mine, but they're fine for me. And I'm going to show you today how to make this fell stitch. All right, so I finished this side. Now I'm going to show you what it's like on the other side. So on the other side, you can see I've already cut my length of ribbon here. I have there's fiber all over my house, so it's a little bit extra. And you can see I've already pinned the ribbon down. So when I cut the ribbon, I cut a little bit longer than I wanted the length to be. These ends are folded under about 1/4 inch, right? And I pinned it into place with straight pins. I didn't stretch my fabric too much when I was pinning it down. Otherwise, of course, this ribbon is not, it doesn't stretch. So if you stretch your fabric when you pin your ribbon down, it's going to create a ripple effect on the front of your sweater, right? So you want to be sure to lay it flat and not pull and stretch too much when you're pinning your ribbon to your sweater. And the way I like to do it is obviously, I pin it down here at one end, I pin it here at the other end, and then I lay my work down flat. And the first pin I put on is in the center, and then I subdivide from there to make sure that there's no places where I've got like gaps, where it's not like bunched up or whatever. Make sure the ribbon's even all the way across the work. So that's how I get it pinned on. And I've already done this side. I only have this inside opening left to go. And just to show you where the steek is, I'll take out a couple of pins up here. You can see I've got my steek stitches here, and the ribbon goes from this seam and fully covers those steek stitches. So that's the goal. But I'm going to start my fell stitching at this end. Let's get those little bits tucked in there. And the first thing I need to do, I'm using white thread because that matches my ribbon for the most part. I'm pulling out about a yard of thread, cutting that, and then putting it in my needle, right? Now, when I sew, and this is probably not the most prettiest way to do it, I tie a knot at the end both ends so that my needle's in the loop, and then my first stitch is going to go through this knot, which holds it secure, but it's probably not the tidiest way to do it. So my first stitch here, let's see, where did I go? I ended here. And I actually did quite a bit of searching online to figure out what's the best way to sew a ribbon down on your steeks. See, you got a little, this could hide underneath, I'm sure, if I tried a little bit more. And I actually found this method of using the fell stitch on Helen Magnusson's blog. She's an Icelandic knitter, and I'll link her blog below. She has a lot of good information on knitting, not only Icelandic, but you know, Norwegian, Swedish, all those kind of Scandinavian, that's what I'm looking for, the word, Scandinavian knits, good tips and tricks. So the fell stitch, and you can see it here, right, creates a little stitch from the edge of your fabric over the side, right? And then the next stitch is here from the edge of the fabric over to the side, right, edge of the fabric over to the side, edge of the fabric over to the side, which looks nice and neat. And this kind of a stitch is used to apply, right, one piece of fabric to another piece of fabric when you want it to be flexible. So to do that, we have a stitch here. That's our starting stitch. And then we're going to pick up just the back layer of fabric right here and come about 1/4 of an inch after our first stitch on the edge of the ribbon. And then our next, we're going to pick up directly under that stitch, right on the, like I said, just the inside layer of stitches, and then come up again 1/4 of the way, or 1/4 of an inch past the end of the last stitch. And I sort of try to come up where in my ribbon there's these little white, you know, gaps in the brown border, and I'm trying to come up there just so that the white thread going out to the side sort of falls on where that white gap is to begin with, and it looks a little bit neater. See, like that. And I'll show you when I pick up just these inside layers of stitches, right? I can't see where that stitch is going. I don't see any part of my needle on the outside of my work, and that's important. There have been a couple of stitches I've had to take out because I wasn't paying attention enough, and you could see this white thread on the outside of your work, but that's not the goal. The goal is for it to be invisible from the outside and neat and tidy on the inside. So yeah, I had never used the fell stitch before. Like I said, I'm not a expert sewist, So I thought if it was new to me, it might be new to some of you too. It doesn't take that long. I would say I've maybe 40 minutes per side, and I do a lot of my knitting. I've been working on this while I was on conference calls for work. So it actually does go pretty fast. By the time you get done with a conference call, you're like, whew, I finished the whole side of a ribbon. So for any of you who are on calls regularly, you'll know 4 calls a week is not that much, and you can finish putting on your ribbons to the inside of a steek. So I hope you found this helpful. I'm going to finish this up, and you'll probably see it on a future podcast. Bye.